Welcome to another edition of A Voice to the Gentile Church. I'm Jim Wingerter. Next to me is Rabbi Jeremy Gimpel, and next to him is Pastor Roger Diaz. We have a bunch of questions for our special guest. Has many accolades, but currently co-founder of Gan Arugot Farm in Judea, Israel. And boy, do we have questions for you.
All right.
So, well, Pastor, I'm sure you're sitting on it, right?
Well, we're gonna have discussions. Not too many. We're not gonna bombard them with too many questions. I think one or two questions will bring out everything that we need to talk about this morning.
Of course.
So, welcome to the program. It's been years since I've been wanting to get you on here. We've been doing this for a long time.
We've been friends for 20 years now.
Over 20 years, actually. So, I remember the first time I met you. I met you here before I met you in Jerusalem. So we had an appointment in Jerusalem, and we met at that, what's it called, that plaza right next to the Jaffa Gate, the really nice plaza. We met there. And you had black hair, completely, and I had black hair, and we met right there, and we had a cup of coffee, and we talked about, if I remember correctly, we talked about the uniqueness of this relationship. And I remember the nature of the discussion was, we don't know what's involved, but we believe that we ought to walk together.
And we had no idea
that was 20
what
years
we
ago.
would have gone through in the last 20 years.
Yeah.
It's been quite a journey.
Yeah, it's been. But, you know, the fact that you've continued to come here all these years and you've been faithful to come and bring a word from Zion, we really appreciate you. The entire congregation pray for you, pray for Arian. Just again, our good project. We love it so much. You know, the land of Israel is always special, but there's something uniquely special about that hilltop. I think, of course, Judea, Samaria, you know, the biblical heartland. But the first time I got up to the top of Aragut, it was like some sort of a soul awakening type experience.
And just for all of us. Yeah,
just to stand there and look over those hills into the Dead Sea, the Salt Sea, and you know, and Gedi right there, and then knowing that this is the wilderness of Ziz that's mentioned in Second Chronicles. It's just overwhelming, and there's such a spirit, a peaceful spirit. It's a divine, I think, a divine spirit. So we really champion what you're doing out there. It's you're blessed to be there.
Yeah, thank you.
So you said some things on Sunday night at the meeting you had with us. Awesome meeting. And of course, you were really cranked up, and it was good. One thing that you said that really struck me, and I really want to talk about that, is you said that in Christianity, there seems to be a pole, sort of one group here, one group there, and they're separating, they're being spread out, something to that effect.
Yeah.
Talk about that. I mean, I want to hear what you have to say as you expand on that, because that's something that we've been looking for for years.
So I'll tell you, you know, I'm really connected with like social media, the internet, the media in general. Like that's the way ideas are spread in the world. And I've never in my life seen so much anti-Jewish rhetoric, anti-Israel rhetoric. But what's unique about this anti-Israel rhetoric is that for years, it was always coming from the woke left. It was always coming from a secular perspective. Now it's specifically coming from a very Christian perspective. They have like a cross behind them as they speak. Candace Owens is now converted to Catholicism. Nick Fuentes, they're all coming from a very Christian perspective. They speak in the name of God, and they speak, and they're being funded. It's very clever, but they saw that there's, in the Christian right, a huge support for Israel. So there's now a strategic effort to try to break that support and put a wedge within the supporters of Israel within the Christian world. And I'm like, well, I've just never seen that before. But that idea that Christianity really is a fusion between Judea and Rome. That's what happened. Christianity was born in Judea, born in Bethlehem, born in Israel, spoke Hebrew, and then at one point it became the religion of the Roman Empire and then spread across Europe. So this fusion of Rome and Judea is the same battle that's happening. And the more it's pulled toward Rome, then the more it sort of degrades Israel. It wants to replace Israel. The Vatican is the new Jerusalem. The pilgrimage isn't to Jerusalem, it's to Rome. Rome is the one that destroyed our temple. So there's a real battle that's happening even within Christian America. And what's really interesting is that you can see it reflected also in the leadership in America. Meaning, I don't want to get too political, but President Donald Trump, pretty biblical man. His daughter even converted to Judaism. Mike Huckabee, very biblical man, very supporter of Israel. The vice president has always been a little bit colder toward Israel, a little bit less supportive of
noticed.
Israel. Well, I didn't know this, but just a few years ago, not that long ago, 2018, something like that, he converted to Catholicism. He converted to being the Christian that identifies with Rome and is under the authority of the Vatican and the Pope. And with that comes a little bit of a distance to Israel. And so I'm like, oh, that's being reflected in the leadership of America. They're not just people, they're ideas. Yeah. And so the Republican Party, the party of the believers, is actually being divided right before our eyes on a national level, that we can see this happening.
Amazing. Well, I can deep dive that for sure. What some of what you mentioned is what we talk about quite a lot. Let's just say, suffice to say, without going too deep into this, there are powerful religious, geopolitical, geo-religious organizations, one in particular that's behind this.
Really?
Ancient order. It's 500 years old. I'm not gonna get into it, but very powerful. In many cases, governs what happens on the planet. This organization within the Catholic Church. So this is happening. This is happening. In fact, right now I'm going through a teaching series on Sunday mornings concerning the Orthodox movement that we're seeing right now, the ancient church. And the title for the messages that I'm giving is the HaNatzrim, the true historic church. I'm talking about the 1st century, 2nd century church. They were called Nazarenes, but HaNatzrim in Hebrew. So that's going to be my emphasis, and we've talked about that so many times on this program. Now there's something happening that I didn't expect. I see myself as discerning and capable to see trends and so on. And I saw this only about a year and a half ago. I began to notice a trend where millennials like Vance and others, because he's on the edge of being a millennial, millennials had become extremely given over to orthodoxy, Christian orthodoxy. In Judaism you have orthodoxy, and then in Christianity you have orthodoxy. Orthodoxy gives a sense of stability, a sense of history, value in something that's historic and it's dependable. That's what orthodoxy offers, right, in Christianity. But orthodoxy is a vessel through which I would say the evil forces of the earth can work through to suppress biblical Christianity and ultimately Israel. They've been working through that vessel since Nicaea, Council of Nicaea, the Byzantine Church. And so that's its history, and I don't want to get too wonky when it comes to the historic part of it. But you're absolutely right. There is a movement among millennials who tended to be, as Christians, now I'm talking about Christians only, there's a movement among millennial Christians who were formerly conservative, would stand with Israel, would be biblical, that are just rushing towards orthodoxy. It's a movement, and the movement is well supported, but they're also working to influence the Gen Zs and the Gen Xs. And they're bringing, not the Gen Zs are still young, but the Gen Xs are being drawn into it. And I have family members that's been pulled into it. I have a family member that was in love with Israel, wanted to join the IDF, wanted to really, I thought he was going to convert to be a Jew at one point. But suddenly he's pulled into this movement of a wave of deception, and it's all about, it follows October 7th. October 7th was the catalyst that gave this movement the impetus to achieve what's achieving now. And I hate to say it, it's achieving a lot. It's pulling a lot of people away. And so I like the statement you made, sort of illustrating that there's a polarization occurring in the Christian community. So I've said this to you before, I'll say it again. not all Christians are Christians from a biblical viewpoint. It's different in Judaism. All Jews are Jews. You have all different types of Jews, but in Christianity, there's a very clear distinction between those who are biblical and those who are not. And we never meet in the middle.
You used to be able to say that's Catholics versus Protestants, but now pretty much the Protestant movement has joined the Catholic side of that fence, and it's only those that have broken away that are not.
Yeah, absolutely. So, but you're seeing, and this is what this is the gist of the question. You're seeing out there in the field because you get to interact with more Christians than I do. Actually,
yeah.
You're in the field and you're seeing this movement develop even stronger. Those who are pulling to the left, doing it with a lot of zeal, vim and vam. Those are pulling to the right. These are the ones that you interact with. So you had a meeting last night in Cocoa Hill in Florida, and you had a mixed group.
I did have a mixed group, but I want to tell you something that I'm looking up here because I don't know much about Christian theology at all,
right.
But I do know a little bit about the Christian history as it pertains to the Jewish people. I was invited to speak in a community. I wish I remembered where it was because I'm on this speaker from Montana to Miami, so it's all a little bit of a blur. But the venue was hosted by a Lutheran church. And so before I got there...
That's amazing.
Right.
That's amazing.
Well, it wasn't the church itself. That was the venue.
The venue. Yeah,
that was
right.
the venue. And so before I started, I just wanted to say like how remarkable it was because Luther, he was the one that sort of broke away from the Catholic Church. That was the beginning of he's the father of the Protestant movement.
Is. Yeah.
Okay.
So we'll give him that, and that's all we'll give him.
In 1543,
okay,
he wrote a treatise on the Jews and their lies. And this is what he wrote. These are concrete recommendations to German princes and authorities that say like this: burn down synagogues and Jewish schools, destroy Jewish homes, confiscate religious texts, prayer books, and Talmudic writings, ban rabbis from teaching, and force Jews into manual labor or expelling them from German lands entirely. So when Hitler raised to power, he just said, listen, I'm just following the father of the Protestant movement. Yeah. Yep. And so within Christianity, it's not a shock to me that there's now a movement that are returning to its roots of Protestantism,
right?
Because the real roots then have to not go back to Rome and Protestant. That's not even the conflict. It's to go all the way back to Judea, all the way back to the land of Israel. That's actually a full revolution. That's like going all the way back to the beginning. And I feel like that's really maybe what the Jews in Israel have to offer.
Amen.
Is a connection to the authentic, a connection to the land, a connection to Hebrew.
So I chuckle because you always steal my thunder. You're doing well. You do much better than I do. So, yeah, absolutely. So we've been highlighting this fact concerning Martin Luther for a long time.
Yeah.
I often say this. I've been saying it for forever, and people at the church they're kind of up to here with hearing it. I think the Reformation was very tepid. The Reformation that Martin Luther introduced was salvation by faith only, not the Eucharist, not doing things for the sake of justification, right? For being right with God. It's by faith, and that's a Jewish concept. By faith, you're, Abraham.
From Abraham, right.
So Martin Luther came along and said, guys, you're wrong. It's by faith only, not the Eucharist. He was correct. And so that incited a Reformation. And it was powerful. And because of that Reformation, the Bible was released into the Christian community for the first time ever. This is the impetus, not Martin Luther. This is what made the changes, the Word of God being released. But he became a horrible anti-Semite because the Jews of Hamburg, they rejected him. He came along and said, guys, you've been persecuted. Trust me. You can trust me. I'm a better type of Christian. Embrace what I'm doing here. And they said, we love you, but no. He became he was like Muhammad. Same dynamic
never
with
thought
Muhammad.
of that, yeah.
But you see, we've been saying that here forever. The Reformation was tepid. The church needs to reform back to Shabbat. The church needs to reform back to the festivals. The church needs to reform back to where it belongs, like you said, in Judea. Standing with Israel.
Right.
Embracing the fullness of the TANAKH, all of it. That's where the church belongs. That's where it came from. And that's the nature of my message
Right.
for the next 3 Sundays. Hanatzrim, the true historic church. And that's a challenge against what's being said now about the Orthodox Church being the true historic church. I sat in a sauna a few nights ago. I do sauna evangelism. I sat in a sauna with a kid, young kid, 25 years old. Southern Baptist, came from a very, very pro-Israel type church in Jacksonville. Lots of them in Jacksonville. And I've interacted with him before. I interacted with him again last week, and he converted to be a Coptic Orthodox Christian, Coptic Christian. He said he wanted something that was closer to the land of Israel. He didn't want to convert to the Greek Orthodox or the Roman Catholic Orthodox or Eastern Orthodox. He chose the Coptic Orthodox movement because, again, it's right there, right? Egypt. So I had a good conversation with him, and we didn't get too far, but I had a good conversation with him. But he represents this movement, his attitude, his ideas, like, this is the true church. They're looking for the true church, but they're looking to Nicaea. They're looking to orthodoxy.
Right.
And it seems to me, to us, it's so foolish. Why? I mean, that's so petty. So
We
but
repented of Nicaea
Yeah.
and Constantine. And I think everybody needs to do that.
Well, yeah, but it's powerful. I'm really taken back as to how powerful this movement is, and it's frightening. Like I said, family members are being drawn into it.
Yeah.
So, how does that sit for the future of Israel and Christianity? Not well. So what you said, I really like this movement of polarization. The church that's pulling the believers in Christianity that are pulling to the right. We have to, become much stronger. We have to become much more fervent, while the left is going to polarization. It's just pulling as far away from each other as it could. So, also,
Do you want to hear my diagnosis and how I would remedy that issue? To me, it's the answer to almost all problems in the world today. Yeah, that's the answer. Meaning, the one greatest thing that you can do for Israel, the one greatest thing you can do for your own faith, the one greatest thing that you can do for your relationship with God is to just really learn the Hebrew Bible. Just start in the very beginning and go through it. And what's interesting, I started this new podcast called The Prophets of Israel Daily. And chapter by chapter, one a day, that's what I do. And rabbis in Israel, pastors in Florida, pastors in Texas, and so many people that are just people, thousands of people. And they said to me, they're telling me all the time, I knew these stories, but I kind of knew them out of context. I knew a verse here out of the place, but going chapter by chapter, learning the arc, learning the history. Oh, there's a story. There's an unfolding redemption that's happening. If you learn the actual Bible, it's impossible to be against Israel. You would have to be against the entire book to stand against Israel and the Jewish people.
And it's such a simple argument, and yet it's so complex, right? There's spiritual constraints behind it, of course, in the lives of many Christians. I think once a Christian embraces Nicaea, like you were saying, embraces the violation of Nicaea, something otherworldly happens to them, and it's like they become entrapped or imprisoned in the ideology of Nicaea, and it becomes very difficult to get out. I had to surrender my Christianity when I came to the position of seeking the truth concerning what God's word actually says. I had to surrender my Christianity.
Do you know what I've surrendered? I live an Orthodox Jewish lifestyle. But I've surrendered the title Orthodox. What does that word even mean? Orthodox to me sounds like a shoe doctor. I'm an Orthodox Jew.
Well, people like these categories to put people in a box that says this group does this, this group does that.
I think that the final movement that we're moving into is out of the box.
Yes.
It's breaking boxes.
It has to be.
So that's why a return to the Torah, a return to the Tanakh just allows us to be Torah Jews, living by the Torah, living by the Word, living by the Tanakh. I just feel like Orthodoxy, just by definition, it just sounds like that's the identity that you want. Orthodox? Why?
It's a confinement, and it gives you a sense of security, gives you a sense of belonging and history. That's what Orthodoxy, Christian Orthodoxy, that's what it offers. I was speaking with someone last night, and person is struggling with, the Bible. How can I accept the Bible? I see so much in there that's negative. But he loves the idea of having a relationship with God, but he's just struggling with mostly the Tanakh. All right.
No, Prophets of Israel Daily. I would send him that with chapter by chapter. We'll show him the light.
So he's struggling with those hard verses that we see in the Torah that some people find really difficult to embrace. People like Tucker Carlson and others, they tend to highlight the things that are community-oriented in the camp of Israel that needed to happen. So I was sharing with him, and it's difficult to work with people that are completely turned off from the Bible, but they want to have a relationship with God. And so finally I said to him, pick up the Bible, just open it and read it. Like a book. Go from Genesis, go on. Stop in Deuteronomy. When you get through to the book, stop right there, and then in your mind analyze what you've taken in. And if you're honest about your analysis, you're gonna realize that the God of the Bible exists. He's not who you thought he was, because Christianity has given you this grandfatherly, this benevolent, God that floats beyond the clouds. But when you see the God, when you come in contact with the God of the Bible, the God of Israel, the God of the Torah, you realize that he is much different than what Christianity has given us. He's a God who loves. He's a God who cares. He's a God that's zealous for redemption. And I told him there's one word that defines the entire Bible, the Torah, and all of the Bible, even the New Testament. The word is redemption. And this is what God is doing. So that didn't get anywhere.
Can I tell you something really interesting that happened to me? I never really understood it so powerfully, but I was invited to speak in this Amish church. I think I spoke to you about that.
Yeah, you shared
Amish
that.
church
That was amazing.
So it was so interesting because I came there hours before the event because they wanted to meet with me and talk with me. So I really very special people that are just now 8 months ago, they started keeping Shabbat. They're just like slowly but surely like following the truth that's being revealed to them. And one of the not little guys, he's like in his 20s. He's like a young man. He came up and he's like, the thing that I'm really struggling with the most right now is I was lied to about God.
Right.
And I'm like, you were lied to about God? What does that mean? He's like, we were taught that the God of the Old Testament is a God that's angry, wrathful God, an evil God. I'm not even say evil, an angry, mean, wrathful God.
A despot.
And then the God of the New Testament is a God of love. And I'm like, you guys believed in two gods? And he's like, no, not two gods. That's what was, but
character,
two
you're defining.
Personalities?
Right, character,
and like,
you're
God
defining.
is two personalities. He's exactly, it's like, I'm rediscovering what Hashem Echad, what God being one is. That he's more than one aspect. It's like much more deep. And I'm trying to really now relearn my relationship with God because I was taught that like there were two different kinds and God can't be two different kinds. So now I'm really struggling just to figure it out. So
we got a bipolar God here.
Yeah, well, it's interesting, but
amazing.
What's awesome about having these conversations is that Israel was given its name because it's to struggle with man, to struggle with God, and prevail. That literally is the name, what Israel means. Jacob was named
profound.
Israel.
That's profound.
And so for 2,000 years, we've been struggling with God. A God that would exile us, a God that would love us. A God. It's like not just one aspect. There's like so much to the creator of heaven and earth, the creator of all things.
That's amazing.
And so we've been like in a constant struggle. So when people actually enter into that struggle, that actually means that they're aligning a little bit more with Israel. If someone says, I know God, of course. I know God so well. I'm going to go preach what I know about God to everyone else. Just like, whoa, let's just have, like, his ways are not our ways. His thoughts are not our thoughts. That's a direct quote from Isaiah. God is so much more than our little minds can even comprehend. So entering into that struggle is to enter into the reality of Israel. It's to struggle. It's to really try to seek the deepness, to seek after God.
That's profound. That's profound.
That is.
So a few Mondays ago, we had a big Church of God conference here in Orlando, and a friend of mine from Israel asked us to go out and man a table for his company. He has a tour company, and so we went out there and we did that. And so our mission was to support Israel, support trips to Israel. That was an eye-opener. Church of God, very Pentecostal and very fundamentally Pentecostal. And to interact with Christians out there, I interacted with, 100 different Christians out there concerning Israel. And yes, I was there to promote the tour company and promote trips to Israel, but I was really interested in the different opinions about Israel. And it was a fascinating study. So one Monday night, I was out there. I went to a group over in Brandon, same place you went. And they were Christians. A lot of Christian leaders were there, big meeting, good-sized meeting. And the person who invited me over wanted me to share on spiritual warfare, something that Pentecostals are very excited about. And, I said, I'm going to share on that for about a minute, but then I'm going to move on to Israel, which brought on real spiritual warfare. Because when I started sharing on the reality of who Israel is today, the Israel of the Bible is the Israel of today, and other factors I threw out, I met some real resistance. There was a bishop out there who, Messianic Jew, bishop. I mean, he couldn't help himself. He challenged me openly like 4 times. And it's the whole movement that we talked about earlier, America first, not Israel. We need to get our eyes off of Israel. That's not even Israel. America first. That statement, America first, comes from the Candace Owens and the Tucker Carlsons. So that's spreading like a wildfire.
And it's unbiblical.
Well, absolutely. So what's troubling is that these people were formerly people that would say, I stand with Israel. But Jeremy, I think I've told you this before. Be leery of every Christian that says, pray for the peace of Jerusalem. They're very shallow. I hate to say that about my Christian brethren, but a lot of people who say I support Israel, they're doing it for the wrong reasons. They're not fully vested into their positions. They do it because if Israel is regarded to the land of Israel, it signifies that I'm going to be raptured out of here. It benefits me. So there's a very shallow, self-centered Christianity that says we stand with Israel. They would fall quickly, and they will just flip on you real quickly. But then, based on what you said concerning your experience out there with the Amish, there's another movement that's deep grounded, really rooted, that will not flip. Their initiative is not to pray for the peace of Jerusalem. Their initiative is to really understand more of the TANAKH, the Torah, be grounded in it. That you can trust. The Christians who says, we want to bless you because if I bless you, I'll be blessed. I've told you this before. Be leery of them.
Well, I want to expose my ignorance because you've even said a few words. I didn't want to stop the because it will take us on into a rabbit trail, but I don't know.
We're all about rabbit trails this morning.
But you've said the word Coptic. I don't know what that exactly is. Pentecostal. I don't exactly know what that is. First Baptist. The Amish were telling me that they come from Anabaptist, but that's before the First Baptist. And there's Second Baptist and Southern Baptist. I mean, all of
It'll
these
have
things.
Your head spinning.
I just don't know. It's
no,
too
it has
much.
our head spinning.
Yeah,
You
it's too
don't
much
need
for me to hold on
You don't
to.
need to
But
know.
what I do want to say is that because there's all of this. I mean, I don't want to degrade the Christian denominations, but it's like all this man-made stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know any of that. But I do know the answer to, should I be America first or should I be Israel first?
Yeah, that's easy.
The answer that I would give, a new catchphrase that I wish would catch on, would be I'm God first. Mm-hmm. That's it. I'm God first. I'm not America first or Israel first. I'm God first.
That's right.
And so if they put God actually at the center of their world, then I would love what God loves. I would support what God supports. I would align my life with God. And if America is going to go against God, then I wouldn't put America first. I mean, there were people that put Germany first. And then Germany went off the rails.
Right.
And if they were German first just because they happened to be living in Germany, if you put God first, then you know what you'll be like? You'll be like Sister Christophara in the Land of Israel Fellowship. She is a German nun that now just loves Israel, supports Israel, started honoring Shabbat. It's not about Germany or their heritage or their,
Correct.
it's just putting God first. That should be the movement. And I think that like most self-respecting Christians would be like, you know what? I should put God first. And then let that take you where it comes. It's not a political battle. It's a spiritual battle. The whole world should be seen through that prism. And so I think that really is, that would be my answer to Tucker Carlson. I'd be
Absolutely.
like, I'm America first. I'd be like, all right, good for you. I'm God first.
Absolutely, and you're absolutely correct. It's the Tanakh. It is the Bible. It is Torah. And I what I said earlier, I absolutely mean. When I spoke to this person last night, I said, read from Genesis to Deuteronomy and pause, and give what you've taken in serious thought. You will recognize a different God. And I think Christians, I think a prerequisite for Christianity, real Christianity, is to read the Torah. Ground yourself in the Torah before you go into the rest of the Bible, before you go into the history, the prophets or whatever. Be grounded in Torah, but don't look at Torah as rigid teaching. Look at Torah. Look at the prophetic value of what's in the Torah.
Can I want to add a
Yes.
dimension to that? Every week, the Jewish people throughout the world read a very specific portion of the Torah every. I'm sure you know that, but it's more for the listeners. I would say, if you can, try to join that rhythm. And what you'll see is something really marvelous. The Torah portion, at least in my own life, speaks directly to me in the week that I am reading that Torah portion. And I see there's a message that speaks to me personally, it speaks to me nationally, and often it'll speak to me internationally. And then what you'll see is that, oh, it's not a Bible. Bible means book. Torah is a verb. Torah means guiding, teaching. It is a living word that's guiding us now. And imagine this, one word is coming down to every believer around the world at the same time that week. Plugging into that rhythm, you're reading the word, a living word that's being given to all of God's people that week all around the world. And you'll see it really is a living word.
I agree with you. Christians should consider the Torah portions.
Yeah.
We've been doing that here for a long time, and it's not about us. It's about us trying to set a standard, and that standard is real. You know, I saw a special this morning on the way over here on CBN, Christian Broadcast Network.
Yeah.
And they're finding little figurines in Jerusalem and Lachish, little, doll-sized figurines, and they're perplexed about that. And the archaeologists, they're back and forth about, well, are they little idols or dolls, or maybe kids played with them, but they were also idols. And I'm thinking, wait a minute, guys. These figurines are idols. And if there's a household idol in a family, they're not going to allow their kids to play with them. And Israel did go off to worship idols in the ancient world. So I saw that they're finding these articles, these items in important places. We know the history. You know the history. Israel did, in fact, engage in idolatry. That's why God would disperse them, right? That's why he did, in fact, disperse the northern kingdom and the southern kingdom of Israel. But it brings light to the reality of the Torah. Because God said very vividly in Leviticus chapter 26, and you know it, do not engage in idolatry, keep my Sabbaths, honor my Sabbaths, don't get involved in idolatry, keep my sanctuary holy. If you do these things, you're blessed. Of course, Israel did not, right? And I thought to myself, the Israel of today, the people I know, they absolutely disdain idolatry, would not have anything like that in their lives, and that's because they've gone through the fire, and they've been refined, and they've been returned to the land of Israel, and so it just brings the Torah to life. It brings the Word of God to life. That here we are in 2026, and we're finding the evidence that yes, Israel did in fact engage in idolatry. God did in fact do exactly what he said he would do in Leviticus chapter 26. But we're on the other side of it.
Can I tell you? I'm going to tell you a really beautiful story. The first chief rabbi of Israel, his name was Rabbi Avram Yitzchak HaKohen Cook. And he's walking by the old city of Jerusalem, and his students looked at him, and it was Shabbat. And there were people in the valley that's right outside the old city walls. There's a valley between the old city walls and the the city of David. It's like a valley there there's like grass.
Yes.
There's like sometimes concerts that are
Beautiful,
there. Yamin Moshe, that's the name of the city that's there, and there's a valley
beautiful.
there. And so the people were looking at the rabbi and like, Rabbi, how can you support these Jews that have returned to the land of Israel? Look at them. They're not even keeping Sabbath. They're playing soccer in the fields there. They're having barbecues. How are you even supporting this movement? It's ridiculous. They're not even Sabbath observing. And then Rabbi Cook said, do you understand? In this very valley, the people of Israel used to be sacrificing their children to the Molech god. They were dispersed. The temple was destroyed because in this valley they were worshiping idols in the most vile, degrading, horrible ways possible. Now they're playing soccer and having a little barbecue.
That's beautiful.
We've come so far. And he's like, and this is just the beginning. You're going to see there will be a spiritual transformation as the people come back to the land. And so we're watching that spiritual transformation happen.
Right.
But you're absolutely right. The people of Israel used to worship idols, and you look at the transformation, there's like a progress toward redemption. And I think that if people saw Israel as not a state, but as a progress toward redemption, that would
Redemption.
enlighten, toward redemption. They would enlighten their eyes quite a bit about what the reality of Israel is.
Man. So I have one more question, and then this will bring a little discussion, and we'll bring this to a close. So Sunday night, I had a friend here, Lori Kadosa. Of course, you know her. She's been doing a lot in Israel. Her organization does a lot to support activities in Israel, but she is focused on what's referred to as the Bnei Anosim movement, right? That's where she's fixated. Her eyes are fixed there, and rightly so. There is a movement in the world, and you may know about it. There is actually a groundswell in Latin America, other parts of the world, where the descendants of the Jews that were forcibly converted and sent to other parts of the world, went out to other parts of the world, other than Spain and Portugal. Their descendants are numerous. I mean, incredibly numerous. And there is an awakening happening. It's an awakening that's separate from the coaching of the direction of anyone. In fact, in the last 5 years, rabbis and people from the universities in Israel and from Tel Aviv and so on are going out to take a look at what's happening, because in places like Brazil, where they estimate 55 million Brazilians have 85% Jewish blood in them, and a lot of these people are simply they're marginal Catholics. They're simply awakening. There's really amazing things happening. I'll tell you a really quick story that I read about 25 years ago. Happened in Brazil, Brasilia, the capital of Brazil. A young 14-year-old girl suddenly became interested in Israel. She had no exposure to Jewishness or anything, but she was fascinated with Israel, which happened to me as well. But her story is much better than my story. So 14 years old, suddenly she awakened to Israel, and she began to pester her parents and grandparents, family members, about Israel. What is this about? I have this yearning in me. Tell me about Israel. And they all kind of shunned her. They attempted to shut her down, right? And then one day her grandfather came over to visit, and he took her to his house. This is the testimony. And he took her to his house, and he took her into a room that was locked up. The door had chains on it. Took her into the room, and he pulled out a Torah scroll, and he said to her, "You're Jewish." And he showed her a scroll, and he told her the history of the family. Now, he knew the history because his grandparents and perhaps his parents gave him that history as well. So that's an amazing story. What worked in this child's heart? What happened with this 14-year-old child that caused her to identify, this is 25 years ago, with Israel without even knowing that there was a connection? So something deeply spiritual is happening in many parts of the world with the descendants of the Bnei Anosim, right, the ones who were forcibly converted. This is a real movement. And rabbis and professors from Israel are beginning to look into it. They've already been in Brazil. Certain parts of Brazil, the population are almost 85%. One place called Recife, Brazil, the population there, they've been doing DNA testing, is 85% of Jewish descendancy. And there is an awakening happening. There are many, many more stories like that of the 14-year-old girl. So Obadiah has a prophecy. It's one chapter in the book of Obadiah. How do you say it in Hebrew? How do you say it?
Ovadia.
Ovadia. He said that the exiles of Jerusalem will return from Sepharad and inhabit the Negev. So people that are focused on the Beni Anusim movement, they cleave to that one verse because it gives the picture of the sons of Sepharad, the descendants of Sepharad, the Sephardic Jews, are going to return and inhabit the Negev, the cities of the Negev. This is the real movement, and there are many people like Lori Kadosamo that are beginning to work in that direction. What do you think about that? The possibility of millions upon millions of descendants of the forcibly converted Jews awakening right at this time. It's happening now. We're talking, worldwide, over 100 million.
Yeah. Oh, well, I think that Israel is going to be a lot larger than it is today. I really think that. I mean, not just in numbers of people, but also in land. Mm-hmm. The biblical promised land is significantly bigger than the modern state of Israel.
Right.
In fact, the logo of the Land of Israel Network and the Land of Israel Fellowship is a map of biblical Israel, of the promised land. And the reason why that's our logo is because people are like, whoa, that's like out there. That's a little bit radical. And I'm like,
right, it's a hot button.
Yeah, exactly. But I really, if I show you a map of Texas, you'd be like, oh, that's Texas. If I show you a map of Florida, just the image, you're like, oh, that's Florida. United States, oh, that's the United States. If I show you a picture of Italy, you'll be like, oh, that's Italy. I see
everybody
that. It looks
knows
like
the boot.
Rarely do people actually know what is the shape and image of the promised land.
Right.
And I want people to see
true.
that. If they see it, then they're like, realize, oh, Israel is going to expand its borders. So I think that accepting millions of people that are awakening, and I'm wondering, I don't know if it necessarily has to be even a genetic reality. Those people that are now in DeKalb, Texas, that are now keeping Shabbat, that are,
right.
I don't know. It's just an awakening. It's spiritual that's happening all around the world. But I think it's incredibly interesting.
So that's the Amish group that you met with?
Yeah, exactly. I don't think that they have any Jewish genetics there.
Did they have friends in Pennsylvania? Because we always associate the Amish with Pennsylvania.
So they specifically have communities in Ohio that they're connected to.
Okay.
And there are now breakaway communities in Ohio that are keeping Shabbat, loving Israel. It's happening all over. Mm-hmm. Yep. And I don't know if they necessarily have a genetic connection to Israel, but a spiritual connection, it's undeniable.
Right,
but what's happening in places like Brazil, even here in the Midwest, Mexico City, other parts of the world, Latin America, people are marginal Roman Catholics. They might go to church once or twice a year. It's not like they're evangelical, they embrace the Torah, they don't even know what the Torah is. And there is this movement in them that's just bristling.
Unbelievable.
Praise God.
It's the Geulah, it's the redemption.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that there are going to be a lot of unexpected turns of events that happen along the way, and that wouldn't surprise me at all. That all of a sudden there's millions of our lost family members that just return, because that would absolutely change the dynamics in the Middle East, in Israel for sure. Just imagine 1 million of them making Aliyah. That would transform.
What would that do for the perspective of Islam and the enemies of Israel?
Yeah.
That suddenly in the Western Hemisphere, we have these people that are making conversion, that are converting.
Wow.
That's what the rabbis are doing. They're going to places like Brazil and other places to effect conversion. What would be the perspective of the enemies of Israel?
Is there a movie that's coming out about that?
Yeah. And there are a couple that's already out, and Lori Kadosamo is going to produce that.
Right.
And she needs support, and I'm working with people as best as I could to give her that support, to lend her that support. I myself will do something personally, but I'm going to lean on the congregation here to really get behind it, because this is a timely work.
Unbelievable. It's so
Timely
interesting.
work. And she's passionate about it. She's in love with the whole idea that there can be this. I often say that Ezekiel chapter 37, the Valley of Dry Bones, isn't fully fulfilled, isn't completely fulfilled. It's in the process of being fulfilled. Ezekiel said in 36 that I will bring them all back. And then he talks about raising them from the dust, From nowhere, they become Israel.
I have to, if we're going to end soon, I want to end with this one prophecy. This is one of the most beautiful messianic redemption prophecies in
And
the
we'll
Bible.
end, we'll end with that.
This is Isaiah chapter 56.
Okay, I love
And
it.
here's what it says.
Yes.
And the stranger who join themselves to Hashem to serve him, to love the name of Hashem, to become servants unto him, all who guard Shabbat against desecration and grasp my covenant tightly. So you're talking about these non-Jews, these foreigners, that all of a sudden, they're not just serving God and becoming servants unto him. The non-Jews start guarding Shabbat. I will bring them to my holy mountain, and I will gladden them in my house of prayer. Their elevation offerings and their feast offerings will find favor on my altar, for my house will be called a house of prayer for all nations. So there will be non-Jews that keep Shabbat, and they're going to be brought to God's temple in Jerusalem. But look at the very next verse. The word, my Lord Hashem Elohim, who gathers in the dispersed of Israel,
others.
I shall gather to him even more than those already gathered to him. So there's going to be two ingatherings. One, we see it's manifested before our eyes. There's about 6-7 million Jews in the land of Israel today. All right, but it says, I will gather even more than those that are already gathered to him. So there is going to be some other gathering that's going to happen. The land is going to expand and more are going to come. And so that's a sneak preview into what's to come.
The redemption, the Geulah is beautiful. When I look at it from a very broad perspective, it's beautiful what God is doing. Leviticus 26, you've preached it. I've heard you talk about it, how God would chastise Israel heavily, but then he'll give the land its Sabbaths. And when the land has its Sabbaths, he will begin the process of the ingathering. What a statement of love. Love for the land, God's love for the land, God's love for the Sabbath. He gave the land its the Sabbath so that the land would prosper. But Israel didn't keep it. He will drive them out. He did drive them out, but he's going to bring them back. What a beautiful picture. The Geulah is stunning and beautiful.
He's going to bring them back, and then he's going to bring them back even more. So there's a second ingathering that we're looking toward. And how interesting that Laurie Cortez Moore is doing this movie, kind of exposing something that I don't think many people know about. I didn't know about this. So how interesting.
It's in its nucleus right now in Israel.
Unbelievable.
And there's a lot of people that are talking about it, a lot more people that are, giving emphasis to it. It's real. Get ready. It's real. It's happening.
All right.
It's happening. So I appreciate you coming on board with us. Discussion was good.
Right.
I knew it would be.
Always.
So, Jim, you can wrap us up.
So that's our program. If these issues that we've spoken about have raised questions in your thinking, and surely they have, you are requested to communicate them with us. The easiest way to do that is to email us at voice@buildupzion.org. Again, voice@buildupzion.org. And until next week, Shalom.